Hello everyone and mabuhay. So, welcome to our recording. So, this is supposed to be our meeting last Wednesday, but due to the holiday declared by the university, we'll have this as our pre-recorded uh, session. So, as you have noticed, we have already published our module for this particular topic, and it's nice to see that some of you have already accomplished some of the tasks needed for our module, which is environmental impact of the study. So, as you know, the end goal of our uh, subject is for you to create a tourism package for a certain uh, ecotourism site in the Philippines. And part of our development, which should be highlighted in our course, is how would it affect the environment. So as you know that tourism capitalizes on nature and culture. So these are two foundations of tourism. So we have to be very careful how we interact with nature, and uh, we must emphasize the concept of sustainability in all aspect of the feasibility study or the product that we're developing. So when we're doing an parang a project that is intended for an eco site, you will be asked to provide a document which actually states or carefully evaluate the environmental impact assessment of the project that you are proposing. So ano ba tong environmental impact assessment? So environmental impact analysis is a study that tries to determine the relationship between a proposed project and the affected surrounding environment. It attempts to address the possible environmental damage that may arise from the development initiatives of the business and the government sector. The objective of the environmental management is to achieve the greatest benefit with the use of natural resources without sacrificing their potential to meet the future needs. Projects that are favorable to the development of the country but may be destructive to the environment may be suspended. uh, Notice the concept of sustainability, di ba? Sinasabi dyan that the the development should not compromise the capacity or the ability of the future generation to meet their future needs. However, ang mga project kasi are political. Our projects are political, and of course, if you have someone seated in the office which do not prioritize the environment, chances are great that even those uh, projects na mas screen out ng environmental impact assessment would still be pursued or would still continue. So a perfect example is if you if you watch current events, you might have noticed or you might have came across on the issue about uh, the casino that is about to be built in the island of Boracay. So that particular project is something that should not be able to get an environmental impact assessment approval because it would promote mass tourism. But if you remember, during the early term of this current administration, one of its project is to rehabilitate rehabilitate the island. Pero, di ba? It's just very contrasting that you rehabilitated the island and then you bring back mass tourism. Diba? So the island will be exploited. So, to be honest, yung project na yun should have not passed yung environmental impact assessment, which is handled by DENR. Okay. Now, what types of projects would require an environmental impact analysis? Number one, the environmentally critical projects. So these are projects that may have negative environment impact. Diba? Example nga, yung casino na itatayo natin sa Boracay, which is supposed to attract more tourists in the island. When we practice kasi mass tourism, ang nangyayari is that yung carrying capacity ng island is nako-compromise as sacrifice. So, na-exploit yung island in that it affects negatively not just the nature but also the people who are natives to the island. Aside from those projects that are critical, projects that are to be located in an environmentally critical area. Example is yung endeavor na gagawin natin. Di ba? Suppose that you are to build or produce a tourism package for an eco site or for a national park sa Pilipinas. Di ba? You have to make sure that you would pass also yung EIA. Kasi the project would technically affect how the flora and fauna in the area will be managed. Diba? Not just that, but also the people. Diba? Yung mga taong nakatira doon, how is the interaction? How will the interaction affect them? So, environmental impact statement is a document that contains consideration, findings, and recommendation of environmental impact analysis for projects that are large and known by experience to create major stress or pose risk to the environment and the immediate community of the people. It provides an environment management plan which contains the measure to prevent or reduce yung damage and alleviate the foreseen negative effects of the project and of the natural environment or on the lives of the people around it. So meron tayong mitigation plan. So with the environmental impact analysis, we were able to predict, diba? We were able to foresee how our project would affect not just the natural surroundings but the people. Having said that, dahil na-foresee mo na yung mga possible risks, how are we to minimize those risks? How are we to mitigate yung problem na nakita natin doon sa project na ipopropose? Yan. Ano ba yung major sectors nung document? Number one, the project description. So it should include the project information. Where will the project be located? Why is the project being pursued? Ano ba yung alternatives and the phases of the implementation? Number two, baseline environmental conditions. So what is the current condition of the land use, yung air condition, the water, and the people before the project? Before the project, ito. And after the project or after the implementation, ano yung parang vis-a-vis or ano yung gap? Third sector of the environmental impact statement is the impact assessment and mitigation. So we would now identify, we would now predict or evaluate the impact. So this is the evaluation of future environmental conditions with or without the project. And number four, this is where we propose our plan. So how are we to mitigate? Paano natin ipiprevent? How do we minimize risk? How do we enhance the quality of life? How do we make sure that the environment will be protected? How do we disseminate responsible behavior in the area? How do we educate people? How do we properly communicate our mitigation plan, the institutional arrangement, and cost to implement the plan? It would also include proper implementation of the EMP should guarantee that the project will operate in an environment-friendly manner. Diba? Actually, itong AMP na to should always be revisited from time to time. Kasi normally, this EMP, naman sad to say, it's just for show. But if we are really serious about protecting the environment, it should be on a regular interval. Number 5, proposal for an environment monitoring fund. Of course, it has to be funded for us to make sure that there is continuity in terms of monitoring. And the next section would be the attachment or the annexes. So these are supporting documents, the accountability statement of EIS, process documentation reports, the maps, and the photos of the project site and the impact areas. Main components of an environmental impact analysis process. Number 1, there should be screening and scoping. So this particular step is carried out by an officer from DENR. So all stakeholders to meet and agree on what issues the project needs to closely examine once a proponent conducts EIA. Scoping is an important procedure which allows the proponent to listen to the stakeholders, particularly those affected or concerned with the project, to cover relevant issues and set parameters of the study. So it's important that we invoke involvement of immediate stakeholders, particularly the host community. These people have valid concerns, especially yung magiging interaction nila should the project happen. Diba? In terms of tourism, if we bring in bulk of tourists in the area, of course, there will be disturbance in their midst. So yung concerns nila will be valid. It is actually valid, and ang kailangan natin gawin is for us to maximize the benefit para sa kanila. And those concerns that they will be raising should be addressed properly. Number 2, baseline, the data gathering phase of the environmental impact statement. Third is the socio-economic and public participation. So this one is a comprehensive study of the population, its income, labor, market, the social services, the cultural practices, which will be used to predict and assess the impact of the project. So basically, itong section na to is an inventory. Inventory, sino ba yung mga nakatira? Sino ba yung mga tao dyan? What is the current state of the area? Section 4 will be assessing the environmental impact. Identify the project location, what are the activities that we will do, and what are the alternatives, especially kung merong mga propose or post-harm yung activity na pinopropose. Section B, actual assessment, which includes predictive phase. So predictive phase is the assessment of the magnitude of the impact that may result from the project. So ang predictive phase, this is prior. And number 2 is yung evaluation phase. This is actually the actual duration, consideration of relative importance of the resources that may be affected by the project. And components of the environmental impact analysis process. So ito yung parang ano natin, algorithm. So first, the impact assessment, then it would have environmental impact and preparation, and then we will pass through EIA review, and then the board shall decide if the project is worth pursuing or it's not worth pursuing. If the benefits would actually be lower than the risks that it proposed, of course, madideny yun. Of course, kapag na-approve na siya, there will be the proposal of the mitigation and the monitoring. So it's a cycle dahil after the first round or first cycle, continuous magkakaroon pa rin tayong environmental impact assessment. As I've mentioned, it should be done in a regular basis. Hindi lang siya after mong magpa-approve dun sa gagawin. So it's a cycle, and ikot-ikot siya dyan. So upon securing the approval, magkakaroon tayo ng Environmental Compliance Certificate. So an Environmental Compliance Certificate is issued by the Secretary of the Department of Environment and Natural Resources or the Director of the Environmental Management Bureau. This is after a thorough and open review of the project studies and plans. Itong ECC is given to the project proponent who submits to an initial environmental examination. So the initial environment examination contains the project description, so yung impact and the measures to prevent or mitigate that impact to the environment, as well as with the communities that will be affected by the project. The initial environmental examination is the basic step for projects located in environmentally critical areas such as eco-sites and national parks. The IEE checklist report is to be accomplished before undertaking the project. It consists of a series of questions that deals with issues and concerns about the project in its environment. The checklist is available for projects under the following categories. And batching plant project for fishery project, composting facility project, community-based forest resources utilization, gasoline station project, selected housing and land development and other building, selected irrigation project, land transportation terminal, LPG storage, marble slab processing plant project, mini hydropower plant, piggery farm project, plastic recycling, poultry market, power barge project, public market, rice mill, selected roads and bridges projects, sand and gravel project, collection, transport, treatment and disposal of sewage, slaughterhouse, small-scale lime extraction project, tourism project with emphasis, telecommunication antennas, mobile phone cell sites and similar facilities, cold chain, private land, timber utilization project, Grains Highway, Roro Terminal, power transmission lines and substation, rehabilitation or expansion of port facility, small water impounding, Philippine Economic Zone Authority. Should you pursue any of these, meron silang separate na IEE checklist available in the Office of the Department of Environmental and Natural Resources. And review process of an environment impact statement. So we submit. So yung EIA review by i-review siya ng committee, magkakaroon ng substantive review, which is basically in their office, and then there will be public hearing. So ini-involve yung mga immediate stakeholders. Then after that, magkakaroon tayo ng site inspection. And then we shall proceed with the EIA Review Committee report and the recommendation to the EMB Director. So this is after na-foresee yung mga impacts. And then, magkakaroon tayo ng decision after 120 working days. So that's roughly 4 months. So doon malalaman if mag-grant or madi-deny or magkakaroon ng minor modification with the project. And so after that, yung IEE naman. So we submit IEE. Our EIA is reviewed by the regional office. So it would need 15 days to undergo substantive review. And that's the maximum actually. And then another 15 days for the recommendation. And then it would give us the decision day. So that would take around 60 working days. Tapos doon natin malalaman if our IEE is granted or denied. Should it be modified, sasabihin din. And then after your compliance to the modifications, doon siya ibabalik sa inyo. Doon nyo siya ibabalik sa committee para sa uh, another round of examination. So basically, ayan, yan yung ating coverage for the environmental impact study. So, ayan, so do you want to pursue particularly your concentration is more about the destination management. So you will be dealing with such uh, steps kapag nag-pursue kayo talaga ng destination management and you serve as a consultant for private uh, stakeholders or either kung nasaan naman kayo, nasa government service. So, there. So this is where we end our pre-recorded session. And after this one, you may now answer yung ating mga task assessment published for this particular module. Again, thank you and mabuhay.